This wedding was an assignment for my Religion 2 class in Catholic school.
This one's wife. Harry who? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Prince Harry likes recognition. He's grown up with that. It's what he's been used to all his life. By virtue of birth, he became a prince. And this meant that the attention of the media would fall upon him. Where he went to school, what he got up to, the things that he's done, the relationships that he's had, and of course, even more so, as a consequence of his involvement with this one's wife. He has grown up in the glare of publicity, and when it's on his terms, he enjoys the attention. Not in the way that a narcissist requires fuel, but it's simply something that appeals to his narcissistic traits of showmanship, for instance, of showcasing, that he has been used to it, and he has been used to the deference that comes with people greeting him in a formal way, of shaking his hand, of bowing to him, and such like. And as a consequence of that, that is a habit that he has grown used to. And therefore, when it's removed, it leaves something of a howling wilderness for our ginger prince. Something that he doesn't like because it's unfamiliar. Because his brain, and yes, he does have one, although from time to time you would query whether there is one actually in existence or functioning, but his brain, like your brain, has evolved to want certainty. It wants familiarity. And if it doesn't gain that certainty or familiarity, it responds in a way which creates anxiety, fear, discomfort, and so forth. Accordingly, for Harry, the familiarity and certainty that comes with recognition becomes important to him. And when it's not there, it has an impact upon him. It was the case that yesterday it was the funeral of Catherine, the Duchess of Kent, whose funeral was held at Westminster Cathedral. Queen Camilla could not attend because she was recovering from acute sinusitis, but the Prince and Princess of Wales were there, the Duke of Kent and his 3 children were there. It was the first Catholic funeral for a member of the royal family in modern times, and a message from Pope Leo was read out during the service. Crowds gathered outside the Byzantine-style church in Westminster on Tuesday afternoon as the family and friends of the Duchess arrived for the funeral, which was a private service. Princess Anne and her husband Sir Tom Lawrence, and Prince Andrew with his former wife Sarah Ferguson were there. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, was at the funeral, but Prince Edward was not. He was on an overseas visit. There were famous faces such as actresses Maureen Lipman and Rula Lenska, and champion racing driver Sir Jackie Stewart. Harry wasn't there, nor was this one's wife, because they're not working members of the royal family. And you might have thought that quite possibly Harry, given the fact that he was in the UK last week, might have extended his visit to encompass the funeral. But he's on the outside these days, because he became Harry who? Yeah. Not involved. He was on the outside. Not required. In effect, not even wanted. And instead, he was in the UK and then made a trip to Ukraine, which has been the subject of, as you know, an interview with The Guardian, which I've spoken about separately. And as part of that supportive piece in The Guardian, there was this quotation. "It's amazing. We never expected this level of recognition," says Olga Rudneva, the founder and CEO of the Superhumans Trauma Center in Lviv, which has worked closely with Invictus in Ukraine. "Ordinary people know who he is. We honestly didn't know he had become such a celebrity. I think Prince Harry coming here is a symbol of victory and power. People look at him and his military experience, and they see he is not afraid to come to Ukraine, it is so important that he came. Well, naturally, from the perspective of Ukrainian morale, having a well-known figure such as Prince Harry attend is important to them. It shows that there's another prominent individual on their side and being supportive. Hence, they will herald his attendance. And it was, naturally, part of a pro-Harry piece which appeared in The Guardian. Accordingly, he gets the recognition there, but then, prior to this is what happened. As reported in the Daily Mail, Prince Harry stopped off in a Polish village on the border with Ukraine for a portion of chips, leaving the food truck staff stunned once they realised who he was. The Duke of Sussex made a quick pit stop at a car park late on September the 11th in his last hours before crossing into Ukraine to support the war wounded. The Prince made a surprise trip on Friday by invitation from Superhumans, a charity providing the injured with prosthetic limbs and rehabilitation. Ella Krupa, who runs the food track burger van near the border, said staff did not even recognise the Prince and shared her own disbelief. Ella's cousin, Damien Drozda, said the waitress was busy cleaning, so even she did not immediately notice who was standing at the table. Nobody took selfies or asked for autographs, they said. He was the most famous customer we didn't know we had, the owners told Polish outlet Fact. Arriving just before closing, a colleague ordered in English a portion of chips for the Prince without sauce and a small beer for someone on the team, the outlet reports. Ella said an employee was on shift to greet the Duke, not me, and that she only found out about it when she later saw the story in the papers. My friend was shocked. What do you mean? A prince? He only ordered fries, she said. If the Prince ever visits us again, we'll treat him to a burger or a casserole. We believe he'll come back because our customers keep coming back. Prince Harry was said to have waited off to the side quietly for the order before the crew got into their cars and headed for Kyiv. The Duke of Sussex arrived in Kyiv on an overnight sleeper train a day later in his first visit to the capital. The Ginger Prince wasn't recognised. In a similar way to the fact that he's on the outside when it came to the Duchess of Kent's funeral, there he is in Poland and they had no idea who he was. Now, he's not going to stamp his foot and issue the "do you know who I am" in the way that certain narcissists would. But it would have dented his pride, the fact that he wasn't recognised. But it's also the fact that his prominence these days is for all the wrong reasons. Rather than as a prominent working member of the royal family, he's known as being the captive of this one's wife, a celebrity who's been dragged across the ocean. And the fact that he isn't recognised in his own right in relation to this may well have caused him for a moment at least to think to himself, this would have never have happened when I was in the royal family. He might just have had a moment of awareness. They don't come very often. But as he stood in the rain, chowing down on his chips, realising that he had not been recognised, it might cause him to wonder at why that might have been. Alternatively, it might just have been the case that he'd be stood there going, "Oh, yeah, chips, lovely. Always enjoyed those with a bab from Abracadabra after I've been to Bonkers Night Spot, yeah." And it completely goes over his head. But observing it from the outside, one can see that once again, this is demonstrative of the way that Harry has fallen. Once upon a time, he would have been at the Duchess of Kent's funeral. He would have been involved, photographed and talked about, receiving the recognition that is important to him. It's likely that he may have been recognised by those operating the food truck. But the fact is, he wasn't at the funeral, as his family were. And there he was, stood in the rain, eating his chips, unrecognised. Harry who, indeed. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.